Technical issues. Okay, I'm back. How you going, everyone? Greetings. This episode focuses on one main topic, some thoughts on hobbies that we can use to occupy our time. Let's do this. Now, of course, everyone has different hobbies, different habits, and lifestyle choices. This is a bit of an exploration in how to fill our time if we're struggling to find activities or ways to stay productive. So, depression is a real problem for those of us that feel lonely. It's not weak or wrong to say I'm depressed. It's a valid emotion, and part of the art of solitude is keeping busy and productive, which helps to deal with loneliness and which in turn removes the depression. It's probably relevant to mention again that this channel is dedicated to the art of solitude. And taking that as a positive rather than just like I'm alone, I'm solo, I'm single, I'm lonely. Loneliness in itself is something to be worked on, but being solo, being single, living that sort of the life of solitude is not something to be thought negatively about. So it really is about how to be alone and thrive, how to be single and thrive, how to be a solo person and thrive. I keep using all these different terms because each of us experiences being alone differently, and each of us has different goals for our lives in terms of being permanently solo or working towards having people in our lives or some combination of the two. All options are valid. The goal is to find the best fit for you. So, as I said, depression is valid, and it's a very real challenge for those of us who are struggling with the solo life. When you're depressed, it's easy to get into a destructive mindset. You don't see the value in yourself, therefore you don't have as much interest in maintaining yourself. And this is why, people go downhill if they get depressed, or people that have trouble adapting to being single or being solo, they can struggle with it, and the kind of end result of that is to get a bit self-destructive, and so that's something that we need to try and address and try and work through. When you are depressed, it is easy to get into that destructive mindset. I think I said that already, didn't I? Yeah, I did. For me, when I was alone and lonely and depressed at times in my life, I'd start comfort eating. I'm sure some of you have had similar moments, or at least similar temptations. And look, comfort eating is not the only way of dealing with depression or difficult emotions. It's a pretty common one, and so I'm just sort of touching on it here to start with. Comfort foods are generally sugary or sweet or savory foods, things that release dopamine in the brain. Dopamine is the hormone that makes us feel happy. It's what floods our brain when we're having a fun experience, when we're spending time with loved ones, when we're having sex, and when we're eating pleasant tasting foods. It's a form of self-soothing, which is basically an action to soothe a form of anxiety or stress that you're feeling. I'm not here to cast judgment on what we all do to fill our time. Some things are better and healthier than others, but that's fine. Personally, I believe in balance, and that's what I'm going to try and promote here in this episode, in future episodes, and I think a mixture of good and bad, and I'll touch on that in a second. I've got a tattoo planned. I've got a couple of tattoos right now, and I'm going to do some actual video episodes in future. So I'll flick the video on at some stage, and I'll have a chat to you guys face to face. There's a few different reasons why I'm going to do that. I did think about just keeping it as like sort of anonymous, like you can't see me. But I'm going to flick on the video and start doing some sort of in-person ones because I think there's some benefits to it, and I'll go through those when I start doing that in future episodes. So I mentioned I've got a few tattoos. I've got a tattoo planned for my upper left arm. It's going to be a set of scales, as in like, if you guys have seen like the scales of justice, it's like the two bowls on chains, kind of suspended with like two sort of arms. I should find a picture and put it up here somewhere. I might do that. But so yeah, and I've got an oriental dragon sort of wrapped around the frame of the scales. The dragon is partially just because I like dragons, also because they are the Chinese mythology version of the perfect animal. Anyway, that's not important for this episode. I sort of follow roughly some beliefs in sort of Eastern religions, and the dragon is kind of the perfect animal. Maybe I'll go through that in a future episode. We'll see. But yeah, so the set of scales that I mentioned represents balance. Some good, some bad, some light, some dark. There's a lot of references to things in my life personally, and I'm sure if you want to pause the video here, you could probably think about elements of things in your own life that are some good, some bad, and look, it's really hard to go all in one direction. It's very bad. It's actually very bad to go all in one direction. So I would say that too much good stuff is not. It's not as bad as all bad stuff, but I don't think having entirely good stuff is good for you, and I'll probably touch on that some more in the future. So the point being is that I don't think there's any point in being self-critical or beating yourself up about the choices you make when you're alone for extended periods of time. We all handle it in different ways. But talking about being self-critical, you know what self-criticism does? It makes you depressed. So this leads me on to the very first thing you can do to start to address any depression that you're feeling. And look, there's many different reasons for it. Depression comes from all sorts of different things, but this is one part of a way of addressing some level of depression. Let me just cover a few other things at this point, because I probably won't revisit them in this episode. Other more destructive or negative methods of self-soothing, also known as coping mechanisms. Coping mechanisms are habits that we form that are sometimes fairly harmless, but other times can be seen as destructive to the health and well-being of ourselves or others. Here's a couple to give you a general idea. Porn addiction, chronic masturbation, shopping addictions, marathon gaming sessions, cutting, suicidal thoughts, property damage, or antisocial behavior like vandalism. That's just some of them. Dr. Gabor has some really good material about this, and I'm going to put a link to his channel. I think he has a channel on YouTube. I'll check that out before I post this. I'll put a link in the description below. Check out some of his stuff. It does address some of those addictions. He's an addiction specialist, so it addresses some stuff that we might be falling prey to, in our times of being alone. You sort of can go down some dark places, and this is part of what we're doing here, is to try and get out of those dark places. So as part of my responsibility as a counsellor in training, I have to advise that any of these behaviours aren't covered in this episode, some of the nastier stuff I mentioned before, and particularly with the self-harm topics. Currently, I can't provide any assistance in those areas. I'm training, but I'm not qualified yet. So yeah, I'd ask that you please reach out to a local support group. Most countries have dedicated hotlines or online chat operators that you can call and talk to qualified and experienced people about these topics. So there is help out there. If you are feeling some of those things, if you are in some dark places right now, I'm happy to help as much as I can. If you guys leave comments, I'm happy to kind of respond and try and give some thoughts. But again, I'm not a qualified counsellor right now, so I'm working towards that. This channel is part of, well, the channel itself is part of that process. But yeah, any of those more serious things, if you are in some dark places, please reach out to some qualified folks. There are some great people out there. I've talked to some, I've been in some dark places, and I've talked to some of those people at times, and they do help a lot, even just to get some perspective on like where you're at with life right now, and there's things that can be done. So yeah. So tip number 1: accept our flaws and our bad habits just as much as we accept our good habits. It'll make you less stressed and less depressed if you can open that bag of Doritos and go, yeah, I'm okay with this. So there we go. Now I'm apparently doing the opposite of fat shaming. I'm not sure what that's called. Maybe fat encouraging? I don't know. The point is to accept whatever you're doing as being okay, as long as you try and balance out those scales. Some good, some bad. Don't just fall into a hole and pile on weight from comfort eating or other things that you're doing to kind of self-soothe. Find a good balance, something healthy that you can do just as often as you're cracking open that tub of ice cream. Something healthy that you enjoy as much as laying around on the couch. I'd suggest exercise. And yes, even just the word freaks some people out, but it's really just body movement. You're just moving your body pretty much. You don't have to be, I've written here, maybe the word conjures up images of huge beefcake guys lifting enormous weights, or someone soaked in sweat running those last 2 miles on the treadmill. It doesn't have to be that scary. It doesn't have to be that hardcore, It's just body movement. Everything you do, every time you're moving around, it burns a few calories. It just gets you moving. It just gets your muscles and bones moving, and does a lot of good stuff for you. You guys have heard of gym rats, right? So I'm pretty sure, I hope that's a term that's used all around the world, not just Australia. But gym rats are basically people that spend all their time in the gym, or all their spare time in the gym. I can't be critical of this because I've spent many of the major holidays sweating it out in a gym. Christmas Eve, Christmas night, Good Friday, Easter Sunday. I'm not sure about New Year's Eve. I'm usually out somewhere getting as drunk as possible. It's tradition, and traditions are traditions. I go to the gym as often as I can physically drag myself there. In fact, I'm going as soon as I finish recording this episode and uploading it. In summer, I'm there maybe 3 or 4 times a week, which is a good amount, I think. I could go on about people who go 6 or 7 days a week, and that's the really hardcore gym rats. Or even multiple times a day, which I can't even imagine. But no, that's too much. Maybe I'm just jealous. I don't know. And of course, it's not just the gym. The gym is my preference. I come from a sporting background. I was an ex-high-level sportsman and a coach for a number of years, and I'll probably do like a biography episode at some stage and sort of give you an idea of who I am and what my background is. But yeah, so I just use the gym these days for all my exercise, and I go as often as I can, as I said. So, but if you're a runner, start running a few times a week. You can do. There's these things called boot camps, boot camp classes. They have them in the mornings usually. They're here in Australia. I would assume they are around the world as well. I would imagine that the States has boot camps that you can go to, and it's a social thing, it's an exercise thing, and it's they're pretty good just to get out there and, as I said, just move your body. Even better, if you're into a particular sport, a huge step forward would be to join a club, join a sport club of some kind. That basically makes my job redundant here, so maybe don't do that. Exercise does the same thing that tasty food does to the brain. It floods it with dopamine. It's a different form of dopamine when you're exercising, compared to like, eating a block of chocolate. But it has the same effect essentially. So that's tip number 2 for this episode. After accepting your good and bad habits, exercise is the next thing that you should incorporate into your solo single lifestyle. And again, that's going to help with depression and loneliness. It's just something that has a flow-on effect. I realize that some of us are listening from the Northern Hemisphere right now, and it's winter there currently. There's still exercise you can do in midwinter. It just requires a bit more creative thinking. Whatever you choose, just get that body moving. Pick your poison, or I guess pick your antidote. Next, reading. Now, there's a heap of ways to read, many of which are on a digital screen. In fact, that's probably what you are using to listen to this episode. Traditional paper books are a great change up from constantly staring at screens. A number of us work in offices, or we work, behind a screen pretty much. And it's bad for your eyes to stare at screens for a long time. It just gives you fatigue. So yeah, grab a book, an actual paper book, curl up in your favorite part of the house, and get lost in the writer's imaginary world for a while. I've gotten lost for hours in a really good book. Next, I'll cover 2 topics here. Next, TV. There's nothing wrong with TV really. It's a great way to relax. So if you find it enjoyable to sit in front of a TV, binging a new TV series, or watching a movie, or anything like that, just go for it. It's a good stress relief. Internet stuff. This is a slightly more complex issue, and I will revisit this one as well, because there's tons of stuff, and this is essentially the internet in a way is partially to blame for a lot of the loneliness epidemic that's around right now. This loneliness epidemic is the right word, I think. The internet is a vital resource these days, although I heard something recently that was, I thought, really interesting. It was on a YouTube video, I think, somewhere. I can't remember who said it, but the quote was something like, you can get everything you need from the internet now, no human interaction required. Need food? Uber Eats. Need sex? Watch porn. Need entertainment? Stream a movie or a TV show. Need social interaction? Get onto a social network and chat to people. Personally, I like enriching myself by watching philosophy and psychology videos on YouTube. I actually don't spend much time in front of the TV. I'm known, amongst my friends, I'm known to kind of shrug my shoulders when someone says, "Have you seen this movie?" Most likely no. It's just not how I consume media and art, really. I consume art through poetry and through paintings and through other media, just not through movies. Even though I do love movies, I just don't sit down and watch them. In an upcoming episode, I'm going to run through some of the YouTube channels I watch regularly, because some of the content is related to what I do here. I'm also going to do, I think this will be maybe the next one, or like one of the ones pretty soon. There are a bunch of YouTube videos and YouTube channels, maybe not channels, but I've seen a bunch of videos talking about loneliness, and talking about being single, being solo. There's a channel called Psych to Go, which has videos about this stuff. Alain de Botton, English philosopher, has some videos about this as well. I'm going to run through these at some stage. I'll do a video about these. I don't have all the answers. I'm doing my best to provide whatever I can. But there are some other good resources out there that might help, and that's what I'm here for, to help you guys out. So yeah. Next, being out in nature. It's really good for the soul, and there's something really refreshing about taking a walk through a park or a forest, safely, of course. Animal watching is something similar to do as a solo person. Take pictures of some of the birds or insects or whatever wildlife is around. You can do it with plants as well. There's some beautiful flowers that you can see. You go to a botanical gardens or something like that, fancy gardens in your local city or town, and take pictures of some of the beautiful things that are there. I've had various thoughts at different times in my life about how important beauty is in the world, and I really value beautiful objects. It inspires me. So get out there and find some. So either day or night, it's a simple, fun way to interact with nature. Set up a place to post them somewhere online, and who knows, you might get some conversations happening with some people, or even sell the odd picture or two. A friend of mine even entered some of her photos into a competition and won a small prize. These are just little things that you can do, and they're just fun, active things to do to fill the time between your previous task and your next task, pretty much. Next is to learn a new skill. The internet is full of amazing tutorials, lessons, courses, things about absolutely everything. Every topic these days, I think, is kind of covered with the internet. You can learn how to service your own car. You can learn how to do crafts, cross-stitch, painting, drawing, like clay modeling, all sorts of stuff. And it's really satisfying. It's probably I'd say the best, most productive way of spending your time is to learn new skills, because those skills, they might not be directly applicable to stuff that you want to do in your life, but every skill that you learn, every new skill, every time you put yourself out there in a different way, it has some benefits. So for those of us who are looking to meet a partner, all of these activities improve ourselves in the eyes of the world around us, and they make us more confident when being out in public. Being a gym rat means that we look better for a potential partner. Taking care of yourself is sexy. If you're not looking for a partner, just do it because it improves your health, which means you're less likely to get sick. No one likes being sick. As mentioned earlier, it also raises your dopamine levels. Being out in nature or just exercising, and that makes you feel happier and combats the depression. Reading books, watching TV and YouTube videos, as I mentioned before, gives you topics of conversation to use with someone that you meet in the real world. So I hope this has given you some ideas or inspired you to get out and find something to do this weekend, or next weekend, or next month, whenever. These are just little things that I came up with for this video to distract yourself from any negative thoughts that might sort of pop into your head. Again, as I mentioned earlier on, really what I'm doing here is trying to promote the fact that being single, being alone, even being lonely to an extent, isn't such a bad thing, and we're going to try and work through all these different solutions and address every issue that is out there. These are very wide-ranging topics and very complex topics, and we're going to try and cover as much as we can. So I'm going to stick around, and I hope you guys do too. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Feel free to leave a comment. I'll try and get to them as soon as I can. I'm going to the gym now, as I said, but I'll be back at some stage. I'll be back with another video next weekend. Hopefully next Sunday. That's the plan. Try and do this on a Sunday and get them out to you guys. So I'll talk to you soon. Thanks. See ya.